my name is Marci, and I'm a retired physician assistant, and I relocated to Panama City 2 years ago. I retired from Stanford Medicine and decided I wanted to live outside the country and convinced my husband to do the same. And here we are, and it's been 2 years, and we love living here in the city, and particularly here in El Cangrejo, which is our neighborhood. We moved from California. Cost of living for retirees is extremely high. I wouldn't have been able to enjoy a lifestyle that is as nice as I have here for the amount of money that I was retiring on. So this sort of seemed like a no-brainer to try to retire someplace that was less expensive. And I'd always had wanderlust. I had always wanted to live outside of the United States. When I started researching possible places to look at for retirement, I had narrowed it down to Panama, to Ecuador, and to Portugal. So during COVID, I was furloughed from my jobs. So I had a lot of time on my hands to do a lot of research. And then I started watching videos, and that's when I connected to Panama Relocation Tours. Well, our transition was a little untraditional. We had decided to give Panama a try for a year, sight unseen. We had made the commitment. My husband was going to retire in June. We were going to take the PRT tour in August, and that was our first trip here. Between the time we decided we were going to come here and the time we arrived in August, we collected all the information we needed to get our visa. We went home at the end of August. We sold everything we had. It took a full 2 months to sell everything. And then we literally left our home in Northern California, East Bay. We left our home in our remaining vehicle. We had sold the other. Drove it to the dealer who had agreed to buy it back at a very high price at that time. Sold the car to them, got the money. They paid for an Uber to take us to the airport in San Francisco, and we flew here. So that was the end of October. Even though I'd spent a lot of time prepping, the actual move was very rapid. The actual transition was fast. The guide was very useful. I sometimes still think I need to look more often. I sometimes forget I have the guide. And when Jackie will put something in the emails that she sends out frequently saying I've made some changes or additions or deletions from the guidebook, that's when it reminds me, oh yes, I have the guidebook. I don't have to keep, searching through the PRT Facebook group trying to find the answer to this or that. It's all there. I just sometimes forget I have the resource, but yes, it's very helpful. In fact, I was looking at it yesterday, looking at the insurance brokers because we're going to buy some insurance. So when we first came to Panama for the tour and for our visas, we stayed in El Cangrejo for a week, and we stayed in Casco Viejo for a week. And we really enjoyed the vibe of El Cangrejo and Casco Viejo, but we actually liked the vibe here in El Cangrejo a little more. So when we returned permanently in the end of October, we actually had an Airbnb here in El Cangrejo, right on Via Argentina. And we had it we reserved it for 2 months. Our plan was to take those 2 months, get our driver's license, do all our attorney things, do all our visa things, and finalize all that. And then we had an Airbnb in El Valle for 2 months, and then we had one in Coronado for a month. And that was our plan. And after about 4 weeks in our Airbnb here in El Cangrejo on Via Argentina, we had fallen in love with this neighborhood to the point that we decided we weren't going to look elsewhere after all. So what we love about this neighborhood is it's quite diverse. There's a lot of different socioeconomic groups here. There's a lot of bohemian style in this area, and that just really is something we like. We like the diversity of this neighborhood, and it's very lively. And we absolutely love when you can walk down the streets at 9 at night and you see families out enjoying each other. You see the park is so lovely here and lively. You see the families engaging with each other. it just appealed to us, and it feels more like an actual neighborhood rather than a development. And I think that's another thing we liked. Even though we're in a high-rise, we're in a condominium building with many floors, when we're down on the street and we're walking the streets of El Cangrejo, we feel like we're in an actual neighborhood. After our Airbnb ran out, we found an apartment in this building. It's called Luxor 300. There's a 100, 200, 300, and 400 Luxor building, all by the same developer. We were looking in this neighborhood. We decided we wanted El Cangrejo, and we found a rental in this building on a lower floor, 21st floor. And it was the same model as this one, with a few minor differences, but basically it was the same model, about 164 square meters, and I think it's around 1,750 square feet. And in Panama, they count your balcony as part of your square footage. So we rented that apartment, and about 4 or 5 months into our one-year lease, we were informed that the owner was going to sell the apartment. He wanted to sell it, and but he would make the condition that we could stay till the end of our lease. We were so worried about it, we started looking right away for a new place, just in case, you know. So we looked all over the city. We looked in Barrio, Marbella, Balboa, San Francisco, and we just kept coming back to this neighborhood. There were great things about all those neighborhoods, but there was just something missing that we found for ourselves here. This model, same as the one we were in renting, came available on the 29th floor. The original owners still owned it. They had bought it in 2017 when the building was brand new. They were asking $315,000. It's a 3-bedroom, as I said, 3.5 bath, and very nice size for us. They were asking $315,000. We bounced back at $290,000, and we finally settled on $298,000 and completely furnished. Well, the sale didn't go as well as it should have. There were traveling restrictions for the couple in Venezuela. And in Panama, your owners have to be present in Panama to secure the deal. And it was an all-cash deal, but it was still, there were complications. So in December, the sale still hadn't gone through, even though we'd put the money on a promissory note in July. So in December, it still hadn't closed. But the owners decided to let us move in. They gave notice to their renters, and we moved in here. Neither one of us are real city people. Eddie lived in LA for a short time, but we're really not city people. We've never lived inside the big city. So it's very exciting for us because there's so much going on. There's always activity, there's always fireworks, there's music, there's just it's the hustle bustle. We actually like that. It's what we didn't like about some of the other neighborhoods is there was too much traffic. You couldn't hardly cross the street from the condos we looked at to get across the street. It was just maddening. It's not quite like that here in our neighborhood. It's better. But we like the fact that we can go to a theater, we can go to a movie, we can go to hiking. There's lovely hiking in this city at Encon Hill and at Metropolitan Park. We have Metropolitan Park is right within the city. It's near the embassy, and there's 3 ecosystems within that one park that you can visit. And so it had that draw of nature, but the city itself is just very lively. And I think we were able to create such a community of friends so quickly here that I just wouldn't want to leave it now because we've created so many great relationships here. So that was a big part of it. Within a month, I think we had 4 other couples that we were doing things with, getting together, going to dinner. I cook a lot. I cook at home a lot. We don't eat out very often. So our grocery bill is kind of high. And there's just 2 of us, but I probably spend around $500 a month on groceries. They are more expensive if you just buy in your neighborhood at the stores. If you take the time to go to some of the open markets, you can get your produce and meat a little less. But just for convenience, I usually shop just locally in the neighborhood. I can walk to a couple different grocery stores that are pretty well stocked. There's a Ray which is quite large and it's walking distance. And there's a smaller little neighborhood grocery store very close up the street that specializes in meat. So you can usually get some pretty good meat cuts there. There's lots of the small little mini marts everywhere. I mean, one every block at least. I can walk to the university from here. I was taking classes up there in Spanish, and that's walking distance and located right in El Cangrejo, the University of Panama. There's other universities here too. La Salle is in this neighborhood. There's a Canadian university in this neighborhood. There's quite a few schools. One of the best things, there are 2 metro stations, El Carmen and Via Argentina, both within walking distance. So I can walk down there, get to Albrook, and I think it's 5 stops to go to Albrook. So it's very convenient to have those 2 stations. You can also walk from here to Price Smart, which is, as everyone knows, our Costco. That's walking distance. So what I usually do is I'll shop there. If I have a lot of groceries to bring home, I'll Uber home, but we can easily walk there. Our electricity has been amazing. So we don't have central air. We only have the split inverters. We have 5 split inverter air conditioners. And our highest bill so far was $60 for Naturgy, which is our electrical provider. Now, we tend to not run our air very much because we get such a breeze up here and it just doesn't get hot enough on many days. Now in the dry season, we run it a little more, but in the rainy season, we have our windows open almost all the time. Nighttime, we hardly ever have the air on at all. Our bedrooms get a lot of breeze. So our water and trash combined is a little under $10 a month. And we're from California, where water is precious and expensive. So we're saving a lot of money just on water. Of course, we're not watering a lawn, but it's, under $10, and that's a fixed price, so it doesn't change. We do go out. I probably spend a couple $100 a month going out, I would say. And Uber, we don't have a car, so we don't have gasoline prices. We don't have insurance to pay. So we make up for it with using Uber, and it's fairly inexpensive in the city. It fluctuates with gas prices a bit, but most places we Uber to are under $4. If we go to Costa del Este, where our dentist is, it's more expensive. It's further out there going towards the airport. But the traffic is, when you're going to other parts of the city, the traffic on the main roads is terrible. And, driving here is very different than in the United States, different patterns and different habits. And I just don't want to even have to worry about it. I'll let somebody else do the driving. Well, my husband's younger than I am, so he's not Medicare eligible, but I have Medicare, and I did buy the Advantage plan so that if I have an emergency or an urgency, I can either go to one of the hospitals that's now billing, or I can go and pay for it and seek reimbursement. And we decided we have enough in savings, that if something tragic happened and we needed a large sum of money up front, we could cover that. So, but what we are going to get, my husband wants the worldwide insurance plan because we do like to travel. And that way he'll be covered wherever we happen to go. But I think for me, right now, I'm going to stick with my Medicare Advantage Plus and just see what happens. And we are going to, as I said the other night, I was looking for a broker in the guide and found a broker that I'll contact because we haven't insured our home yet and we need to get that insurance going. So we'll probably use that guide, that agent to help us with the health insurance too. Well, one thing I wasn't expecting is the bureaucracy and the detail in which they go to at the immigration office, for instance. And my husband had an extra L in his middle name on one of his documents, and that threw things off. And so your signature has to be absolutely precisely the same on every document and match your passport. So that was a little interesting because sometimes they seem to let big things go, but they pay attention to the very smallest detail. And that's just something you get used to. The one thing that delights me about the Panamanian people is their patience. And when you come from North America and you been living in a, urban area there. And you're used to everything happening fast, and you get impatient easily. And, and the Panamanians don't seem to be impatient in any way whatsoever. And when you see 40 people in a line waiting for the bus to come, you don't see anybody, huffing and puffing. You don't see anybody rolling their eyes or, stomping their feet or, everybody is just so calm. It's just an amazing thing. And I think that has to do with the life in Panama being a slower pace, a calmer pace. And it takes getting used to it. You have to slow down. You have to slow down and accept that.
So how's that played out for you here, adapting to that?
Adapting to that, I never say, when is our food going to get here? I never, ask the waiter, why aren't you serving us yet? I've learned that's the time you talk. You just sit and talk to whoever you're eating with in a restaurant. You don't, you really do change. And the great thing about it is you do talk more, put those phones away and actually have a conversation. At the bank, it took us several visits to actually get our account. And we just laugh because we say, we're here. We want to give you our money. Here's our money. Please take it. Nope, we're not ready to take it yet, And I know they have sanctions that keep them, they have to be very strict. But other than that, the people in the bank, when I do my daily banking and also when I do my online banking, it's fabulous. Online banking is so well done here, for my bank anyway. Never had an issue with it. The language barrier has not been a problem for me. I had studied Spanish in high school, so we're talking 50 some years ago. And I had used Spanish in my career, a very limited type of Spanish, medical Spanish. So I hadn't gone like 50 years since high school not using Spanish. So I come from California, and you hear Spanish a lot, and a lot of my coworkers spoke Spanish, and they would help me speak Spanish with my patients. I haven't found it a problem. I've used Google Translate when I have to. I took classes at the university. They have classes in Español para extranjeros. So I've taken 3 semesters so far, and that's been helpful. I do Duolingo. I've just started having actual conversations with our security people, and they're just so accepting of everything I say. I can tell sometimes by the look on their face I said something really wrong. Or I know when I've done it wrong. Uber drivers love to speak English, so they like to practice English with me, and they always let me practice Spanish with them. So it hasn't been that difficult for me. And I'm one of these people that I'm not afraid or embarrassed to do something wrong when I'm out. I'll order something and hope I did it right, but I'm not afraid to get embarrassed by making a mistake. So I think, for me, that language barrier hasn't been an issue, not a great issue anyway. If someone is considering this move, but they're having some reservations about it, I think the best thing to do is at least invest in the guide or invest in a tour. And I personally recommend the tour, because the tour takes you places that you would be unfamiliar getting yourself to on a self-guided tour. It gets you to those places, but you're also, every single day, whether you're on the bus or if you're in one of the tour locations, you are being given so much information. You're seeing how lifestyles are different from one part of the country to another. And that's really important, because one of those areas might just say to you, you belong here. And I think it's so valuable. But the guide is essential in getting you through the process of legally getting your residency and moving here. And Panama has so much to offer. And if you don't look at more than one place, you'll never know what a vast and wonderful and diverse nation it is. We've got mountains and waterfalls, and we've got cities, and we've got beaches, and it's just so varied. It's so wild in places that if you have that sense of adventure, you're going to be able to satisfy it here. If you have that sense of excitement of city life, you're going to find it here. If you have that sense of, I want to live the life of meditation and introspection and peace, you're going to find a lot of locations that offer exactly that. If you've watched all the videos and you're sitting on the fence, I think it's time for you to commit to coming to Panama. Take a look. You're going to love what you find, and you're going to learn more about yourself and about Panama by actually getting your boots on the ground here. So we look forward to seeing you in Panama.